We all face similar problems. Working in a dental practice, a busy dental practice, can be chaotic. Often we find ourselves being very reactive rather than proactive. And this can be a particular challenge to dental teams that are trying to help their patients. And there are ways around this. So for example, we can address perhaps a lack of clear leadership. We can address the lack of clear systems to help guide teams and the lack of team cohesion. And once you have some of these basic elements in place, you can find that practices can go from being good to great or okay to better. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges that contemporary dental practices face, especially as the landscape is becoming more complex, it's more complicated, the demands on dental teams are becoming greater and greater, and you can find that teams are struggling. And Trevone was set up to address a gap, essentially, in providing a choice for training and educating dental practice managers, because the profession as such is not particularly well recognised, for example, in the same way that medical practice managers are recognised. So I decided that I wanted to try and do something about this that would have a positive outcome on people that have been promoted into a practice manager role, or to help practice owners to develop their own leadership and management skills. And ultimately this would lead to creating a more efficient practice, a more proactive practice, and a practice that can respond to the challenges and demands that are placed on delivering modern healthcare. And this can then relieve teams of a lot of the day-to-day stresses, although they will never disappear. But it means that any challenges that teams face from the point of view of strategic policy, or changes in their team, or having to alter their work practices, these can be addressed more efficiently, and the team can get back to doing what they do well. So this creates an element of efficiency. This can mean that the practice can spend less time on doing and working out why they're doing what they're doing, and therefore perform better. But it also means they can then take their practice to the next level, and this can potentially mean they can then spend more time working on the practice to develop delivering better care for their patients. And ultimately this would mean that you would generate more patients because people have a more positive experience. So ultimately it will then end up growing the practice, potentially meaning that you deliver more treatments to more patients, and then everybody also has a better work-life balance, especially with practice owners. It can be very lonely, but if you share that responsibility with a well-developed team, with well-developed systems, it means that everybody has a better work-life balance, team morale is improved, so everybody ultimately benefits simply from having more of an understanding about why a practice is more chaotic and how you can take practical steps to address all these things. So I wanted to run a successful practice which over time, through personal education, going on courses in CPD development and so on, all these things, I just absorbed the material, and we applied this to a real life setting for our own dental practice in an economically deprived area of Glasgow. And with time and a lot of hard work, we actually ended up developing our own processes and systems and putting a lot of this information, we brought this to bear with very positive outcomes. This ended up with us being awarded Investors in People and Investors in Young People awards, in addition to successful completion of practice inspections and all the other compliance hoops that you had to go through. And with an element of social conscience, I suppose, I decided that in actual fact, why was I keeping this information purely to myself? And in actual fact, I could bring this experience to bear to help other practices to benefit from what we benefited from, so to keep that information flowing around. And that's really where Trevone came from. It was really to package this information up into palatable amounts of information over a 4 or 5 day course that would essentially give you the nuts and bolts to enable you to take that information back and apply it to your own practice, with contact with myself during that sort of 4 or 5 month period, where I would be able to support and assist you as you try to implement these things in your own practice. So one of the problems that dental practice teams and practice owners often fail to grasp is that as owner-managed businesses, the default position is to be very tight with your control, because it's your baby, it's your thing, which is really natural. But in order to gain control, sometimes you have to let go. and letting go is very, very hard. But sometimes you have to let go to gain control, and control comes through then engineering in processes and systems to run the practice, to recruit staff, to train staff, to operate your LDUs, to run your surgeries and create your ordering, to market your practice and to have control of your finances. And all these things take time to set up, but once you go through that relaxation phase, you'll find that the control will come back. And through control, you'll end up having a more resilient practice, you'll end up having a team that's got better morale, and ultimately everybody will have a better work-life balance. And this means that you will be able to take time off, knowing that your team is running the practice the way it would run when you're there. It means that the team can take time off and have proper rest and breaks, and it means that overall everything runs that much more efficiently. Now, it's not to pretend that problems don't happen, they will. They happen to all businesses, especially in dental practices. But ultimately it means that you have an efficient practice that can run well when people are not there, and that everybody comes to work, enjoys what they do, and everybody benefits from this much better work-life balance.